Jeremy Corbyn, a Labour member of the UK Parliament, now joins us live. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. David Cameron has said there would be no UK army boots on African turf. We just heard from our reporter there. Why the change of heart?
Well, David Cameron is getting sucked into something that I don't think he's seriously thought through. 2 weeks ago, we started by offering transport planes to France. We then sent force protection to back up the transport planes. We sent trainers, and we have additional force protection to protect them. We then have surveillance aircraft going overhead, and there are reports of UK special forces. I think we're being dragged into this war, and it reminds me very much the French reaction of Afghanistan in 2001. It was all hunky-dory for the first few days, and then it was quiet for a few months, and then they were dragged into a guerrilla war which has now gone on for 11 years.
It does seem, though, that UK authorities, British authorities I should say, are quite cautious about what's happening here. Do you really think it could go that far as to an Iraq or an Afghanistan-like situation?
I think British military forces and sources are very cautious of this because they're quite concerned that they're very unclear what the long-term French agenda is. And but the danger is the more you send any troops in, trainers or anything else, just suppose something awful happens, like one of the training groups is killed by what are termed to be insurgent forces. What then happens? You then go after those groups, you then have a greater British military involvement. We could get sucked in by a position of mission creep, and my concern is that the French and British don't seem to be addressing the political issues that underlie this conflict. One is a government in Mali that gained power through a coup, and secondly the underlying issue, which is the demands of the Tuareg people. And if those demands are never addressed and the conciliation doesn't take place, then quite clearly some of those people will be attracted to Al-Qaeda, and Al-Qaeda will exploit the situation. There are some signs of division, yes, but it seems to me that we may well be in for a quite long-term, high-tech surveillance and warfare being conducted by the French and possibly with Britain and others as its allies against people that know the terrain very well and will be hidden by the local population. This could be a very long and very nasty conflict.
The French have been criticized as labeling this sort of a humanitarian invention, kind of in to help save the day, but have been accused of this being a resource-grabbing mission. What is in it for the UK? Why that region?
Well, the UK and France are quite close on an awful lot of resource issues, and indeed, whilst the companies involved in the mineral exploitation of Mali tend to be French, that's not to say there isn't a British involvement in them. There's also the question of huge quantities of gas that are supplied from Algeria to France, and of course it's not that difficult for some of that gas also to be then sold on to Britain. And whilst Britain doesn't import very much directly from Algeria, there's no reason why it couldn't in the future. So this is seen by the Europeans, particularly France and Britain, as a resource war. The French do present it as a humanitarian intervention, that is true, but they seem remarkably relaxed almost about the appalling behaviour of the Malian army, which has been carrying out summary executions in some of the towns that it's got to. And I think that there's something quite difficult to see how this is going to be quickly or easily resolved. This loose talk about it's all going to be over in a few months seems a little far off the mark to me.
Jeremy Corbyn, Labour Party MP, joining us live on the line from London. Thank you for that analysis.